This meeting is being recorded by the Bernardston-Northfield Community Television for future broadcast on your local cable channel. This meeting may also be streamed live on their Facebook page when able. I'd like to review the norms with everyone prior to beginning the meeting and beginning with the agenda. Everyone have their norms?
Right here.
Okay, perfect. The norms for the Pioneer Valley Regional School Committee meetings. Democracy demands the individual use of one's best judgment as one perceives it rather than succumbing to the will of another. Whether it is resolving a matter of policy, fulfilling your responsibilities, or providing leadership. We will advocate for all students in the Pioneer Valley Regional School District. This is always our first order of business. The school committee members agree to thoughtfully seek and support solutions that will provide the greatest benefit to the students. The school committee acknowledges that a school committee meeting is a meeting of school committee members that is held in public and not a public meeting. All school committee members should feel free to express their opinions and beliefs about issues. Let's see. Discussions will be open and encouraged, candor, and assume positive intent. School committee members agree to focus on issues rather than personalities. The committee will be open to new veteran member ideas and opinions. We will respect each other in their opinions, encourage debate and differing points of view, and speak with care and respect. We should debate issues, not one another. Avoid words and actions that create a negative impression of an individual or the school committee. We should work to build trust between and among school committee members and the superintendent by treating everyone with dignity, respect, even in times of disagreement. All right, we will begin with citizens' concerns. I would ask if anyone's coming forward. There is a microphone set up in the back of the building. I apologize, given our setup this evening. But if you are going to come and speak to the microphone, if you could please state your name, your address, and we ask you kindly that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Oh, this is our committee.
Thank you, Brian.
Brian Herview, South Street, Bernardston. This is probably going to be far different from everything else you'll hear tonight. I actually have some concerns about some curriculum that's at Pioneer, and I could be. I'll preface that with I could be off base. I'm getting these reports from students, so if I'm wrong, please, I apologize. But I'm told that there are classrooms that currently have what the student referred to as A-level students in the same class as what they referred to as C-level students. I don't know if that means grade or what have you. But that the A-level students are feeling shortchanged because the classroom is being geared towards the C-level student, not allowing the A-level students to explore higher curriculum. I won't say everything that was said to me, but that's the gist there. The next thing was bringing some engagement and joy back to the classroom. The students I spoke to aren't really getting that. I remember when I was in school, some cool things happened in class that really engaged the students, and I'd like to see a lot more of that happen at Pioneer. And then lastly, on your future meetings list in your packet tonight, it's just a general question. I know that you closed Pearl Roads. They're not on that. Leyden is not on that list, but they still are part of the district. So I was just wondering the reason behind that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
My name is Shauna Mallett, Old Winchester Road, Warwick, Mass. I have a couple of questions. I tried to get the answers from Superintendent Sedgwill, but I never got a call back. Number one, my question is, John suggested that we come up with outside of the box ideas in terms of keeping money in the district and keeping Warwick open. So I'd like to know why, when it was suggested that we move some of the first grade students with volunteer aides and some of the kindergarten students with volunteer aides, sitting in with them into the first and second grade classroom at Warwick to save money, if that idea was even entertained by the school committee or if it was just shot down immediately. And I'd also still like to know, if kindergarten is going to Northfield from Warwick, how is my child getting there? Thank you.
Thank you.
I tried to print this before I left my house tonight and was not successful, so I'd like to read it off my phone. These are questions submitted on behalf of some concerned PVREA. I'm Tom Zaniti. I teach at Warwick, by the way. Concerned PVRAE members in regards to the CES Passages Therapeutic Classroom presentation at the May 16th school committee meeting. And they're requesting that the school committee members listen to the presentation on the Passages program with the following questions in mind. The first one is, will the program use existing staff, or will it be similar to the model of Pioneer using GCC to offer programs to students? The flyer for the program came out a couple of months ago, and they're wondering, has recruiting begun, and if so, how many students are there so far? What is the upfront cost to the district for starting the program? Where will this program be housed, particularly with the possibility of Warwick's closure? What are the possible impacts or benefits to current employees due to this collaboration? Will students who are currently enrolled or will be enrolled in the district be allowed to utilize this program? If so, what will be the financial impact of this to the district? If not, what resources will be in place for our emotionally challenged students? And the last one is, are there two separate programs, one for younger children and one for high school aged? If so, will they be housed at the same site? Thank you.
Thank you. And may I ask kindly that, could we possibly have you email that or provide us a paper copy, please?
I could actually give, if it would be helpful. Unfortunately, this is all I have, and I'd be happy to provide this.
Okay.
If at the time of the presentation, if somebody would like to have it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I know.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Bryan. I'm Chair of the Board of Selectmen in Warwick. And I wanted to observe that the principal of Warwick Community School heard that her employment contract was not renewed. And that
Mr. Prine, unfortunately, we're not able to speak to any topics regarding personnel matters. It would be a violation. So I would ask that we not discuss this topic at this moment. If you have any questions regarding personnel matters, I would kindly ask that you email myself and Mr. Schedule.
This is not a question. It's
Okay.
an observation.
Unfortunately, we cannot talk about personnel matters or have those conversations
Okay.
take place at this time.
Thanks.
Okay? Thank you very much.
I'm not done, though.
Okay.
I think that the changes in personnel at our school serve to undercut the ability of our school to function as a school. And I think that it was intended to do that. I also think the choice to eliminate the possibility of school choice students at the kindergarten level in Warwick also served to undercut the ability of Warwick to be a viable school, because that will create a gap in the registered students in our school, and therefore will undercut the population. And I think that that was planned. And I wish that the members of the school committee would be would remember that they have already decided to keep Warwick Community School open another year, and that this is an attempt to close it, and that it is a manipulation of the people who have voted to keep the school open, and that these couple of things that have happened don't change the fact that the school should be allowed to stay open another year as you decided in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie Ciccarello. I live at School Road in Bernardston, and without identifying specific personnel, it's our understanding that there are proposed reductions to the music program at Pioneer and the theater program, and I can say as a parent there that that school has undergone so many cuts that one of the most viable, attractive programs in that school cannot sustain those kinds of cuts. And I think it would be really detrimental for the district as a whole to impact that program in this way. I think there were events that happened last year that actually brought everybody, all 4 towns in the district, together at a time when the district was divided. And I think that should be looked at and examined and cherished and not discarded as just another budget item. I think the theater and arts program does a lot for our school district as a whole. Not every kid is athletic, and it gives them something to actually participate in. So I would really hope that you examine those proposed budget cuts to staff time for the music program at the high school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Janice Starmer from Warwick, Massachusetts. I'm here to respond to what I feel is the lack of an open and inclusive process. Even though you hear from us and we hear what you do, there's no conversation between us. I have no idea when I come up here and ask for information if I'll ever get information when I ask questions. I don't have any way of getting the answers to them. And I think this process has hurt us a lot, because it seems to me for something as important as what is being decided here, that a back and forth conversation, a meeting of the minds and ideas is very important. The commitment to the communities, the most important one that I can think of, the commitment we have to the communities, is that each community gets to educate their young children in their town. I really haven't been able to think of a bigger commitment that the district has made to the communities, and to shove that aside seems very wrong to me. Every time I hear someone say that every child deserves the best education, think of the district, don't think of your town. I believe that Warwick and Leyden are part of the district, and their children don't deserve to have to ride the bus for an hour or more to Bernardston or Northfield. They do deserve to go to school in their own community, where the town is an active participant in the community school. I would have hoped that we would be here tonight to vote for Leyden's Pearl Rose to be opened. I would never consider unfairly closing an additional school to serve up the same misery to someone else who was someone else because it was forced onto me. I feel Leyden's pain. How can we make this better? Maybe you're finding it's a lot more involved to closing a small school like Leyden than you thought. What are the problems involved in the transitioning of the students? How do you compensate Leyden for their loss? I don't think that closing Warwick will solve the overcrowding in Bernardston's classrooms. Maybe Pioneer should look to solving problems without destroying the schools that send them students. The school committee would be drawing on the knowledge and willingness, could be drawing on the knowledge and willingness of residents to help solve these problems, building bridges with the local communities by reaching out instead of walling themselves off. If you have trouble funding band in any of the schools, please look around. Music is vitally important to these communities, in case you hadn't noticed. Have you ever thought of raising funds to provide instruments to kids that can't afford to buy them? or help pay for instruction. We could have a battle of the bands to raise money. Promotion could be done by students for credit towards their graduation. There was a time in Warwick when we had no money for the arts one year, but that didn't stop us from having art and music. Sometimes we need help filling the gaps to get to a better time. I know Warwick residents made education at Warwick Community School a priority. We have paid for the state-of-the-art facility to educate young children, even though not every person in town has children. The residents consider the children in town to be an important part of the community, and our school is where we meet to share in their success.
Excuse me,
I think
Janice.
we deserve more than your bottom line. Collaboration between the 4 towns' finance committees, subcommittees, and select boards with real idea exchanges are important to solving this ongoing
Excuse me,
problem.
Janice.
One more sentence. We could have a kindergarten with about a dozen choice students and bring in about $60,000 at $5,000 per student. Warwick may choose to fund the gap of $20,000 that you said a classroom teacher would cost $80,000.
Janice, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop you right there, please. We've reached 3 minutes. I would like to further hear, so if you could please email that to us, I would greatly appreciate it, or thank you.
I gave you something before and I didn't receive anything back. I didn't receive answers to any of my questions yet from the last meeting that we had.
Are there any other citizens' concerns at this time?
I'm Robin Knipe, I'm from Leyden. I didn't really come prepared to speak, but I do have to respond just a little bit to Warwick's concerns. You know, we value our children in Leyden also, and we agonized over this. I felt like at the last school committee meeting, it was like a crazy thing that happened. At one point we had people in Bernardston on the school committee saying, well, we don't know if we can absorb those kids, but we'll close your school, but we'll keep Warwick open. That $60,000 that you're going to bring in, it's not going to actually cover the cost of educating those children. Plus, we own them for 6 years then. Actually, we own them up through high school. So if you accept the school choice children, and last year we went out and we tried to get more kids to come to our school. And in the end, we just weren't able to get enough to stay open. And I feel like for you to say that Warwick stays open and Leyden closes is a disservice to all of the children. And the budget cuts that will happen as a result of that are going to be felt through the entire district. You know, 4 more kids just moved into Leyden in the last 2 weeks. So, you know, things change. So the idea of having school choice without our numbers truly over the next couple of years to figure out where we are is a real disservice, because it's like fake and inflated numbers. And we would own those children that school choiced into kindergarten if they wanted to continue. And so how that would affect us in the next 12 years would remain to be seen.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak before we move on? So before you speak, Mr. Prine, I just want to remind everyone, if you've already had a chance to speak, I would ask that you allow someone else to speak that may be interested. And is there anything new that you would like to say?
Oh, yes, I wanted to address the speaker's previous comments.
Unfortunately, citizens' comments are not to address speakers, they're to address the committee.
All right, all right, I'll do that.
Okay.
It is, it was told to us by Tanya Gaylord that in order to draw up this budget, that she had to include the income of $135,000 from the 27 school choice students in Warwick. Now, the projected savings of closing the school will be $202,000. That, I think, is also a little high. However, I've only heard from one school choice parent at Warwick who said that they will send their school choice child to Northfield. That means that, in essence, you'll lose $130,000 in school choice income. That tells me, simple math, that $202,000 minus $130,000 is $70,000, $72,000. Now, you know, I don't know about you, but it would damage our community to lose our school. And I question whether it's worth it to do that for a savings to the school department of $72,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, everyone. Item number 2, to review the minutes from the March 6th and the April 11th meeting. Okay.
You ready, Kristen?
Yeah. Okay, everyone had a chance to review? Go ahead.
If everyone's had a chance to review the minutes, and with that correction noted, I move that we accept those minutes.
Second. I think she said all of them.
No, the March 6th, the ones we were discussing. No, it was the 6 o'clock.
We have, the first page we have is March 6th at 6 p.m.
6 p.m., the one we were discussing.
The first one was the regular meeting, the second one was
Okay, all right. Actually, I've read both of them a couple of days ago, so I'm going to make a motion, and I hope that everybody else has reviewed these. I'm going to make a motion, we accept both of them.
There are number errors in the votes on the budget.
Which one?
There's a couple. So the central office budget number is written as 697,852. The number.
What page is that on?
Page 1.
Of which one?
So we're March 6th, 6 p.m.
All right.
Item number 3 is the categorical voted budget. The central office budget that was voted was 698,352.
Say that figure again.
698,352. The PVRS administration budget on page 2 was 170.
Wait, please.
Was what?
171497, not 97. And
171497.
and that's it.
Okay. So with those corrections, I would say accept the minutes.
The 7 o'clock.
Is there a second?
I
That were
have
present?
the original voted budget with me, so I double checked against that.
Well, someone's got Heart Committee right there that lines them out.
Okay, it's right here.
Which one? Oh, both.
Right.
You know what?
For March 6th at 6 p.m.
It doesn't say our fearless leader was here. And were you at that meeting?
March 6th in the Kiva. Mm-hmm.
What do you mean it doesn't show? Sue have to put you in the keeper.
I'm looking to see right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, and I was present.
I can confirm I wasn't there.
We can't hear. So that's the missing.
Kristen?
Kristen wasn't there. She was there, but. Excuse me, Chairman?
Yes, Jeannie?
We can't hear any of the discussion down here.
Okay. If
Can you
everyone could
people
just,
use your mics?
if we could speak a little bit louder and make sure we're using the mics, please.
Thank you.
Are there any other revisions?
Thank you.
that need to be made after reviewing these documents? Okay. All right. There was a motion by Sharon.
Now are we ready for that motion? I'll move that we accept with all the corrections for both of those meetings at 6 and 7 on March 6th. I move we accept those minutes.
Thank you, Karen.
We corrected it.
I'm the one that was missing.
Yeah, and on the second meeting, I don't see Robin on the list either. Somebody else. Robin and Kristen are both missing from the pioneer members unless somebody left early and started. Usually trying to document them.
She was present at the meeting. And I can't recall if she left early, but she was present because she sat next to me.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
she did leave early.
Thank you.
And Chris.
Okay. And she's on the first one at the 6 p.m. Okay. All right. Can we try this again?
Yes.
Please.
Want to make the motion again?
Dare I make the motion of April 11th at 7 o'clock?
Do the 6 again.
I don't have the 6th one.
Yeah, right here, he's here, and
It's
you're
a 6 and a 7. We haven't gone to the April 11th yet.
We did both the 6 and the 7 together.
No, I know, but there were some corrections, because Kristen wasn't involved in this one either, and we didn't make that correction. And
I
also
did, yeah.
Robin.
Okay. So
Robin wasn't included.
on this one right
On
here.
this one
She
here, the
left
7
meeting
o'clock
early
one.
at the 7 p.m.
I thought we
meeting.
made a note of that.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with those corrections, I said,
Yep.
we
Oh,
accepted
okay. So
both
March
of
6th.
these.
So we've done it already? Is that what
Yes,
you're
we
saying?
have.
So
We
Sharon made the
voted on it.
motion, Karen, for the March 6th meeting, 6 and 7 p.m.
I'm not making another
Karen.
motion
Okay.
for the minutes.
Okay.
We did,
And the
Did we?
April 11th.
because it was interrupted to vote on those minutes.
Yes. So Sharon made the motion, Karen seconded.
Seconded it.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Can you see hands down there?
Is anyone opposed or abstaining? I think I'm gonna have to move down here.
I'm not seeing. Okay. All right. If everyone could please review the minutes dated Thursday, excuse me.
April 11th.
April 11, 2019, at 7 p.m. that was held at the BES cafeteria.
Okay, I have a typo on page 3. Under Roman numeral 5,
Mm-hmm.
in the second line, it should be Y, not by. The second line? Asked why. Mhm.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you, Karen.
Mhm.
Our science English major. Go ahead, there's no time.
Has everyone had an opportunity to review them? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
And I'm gonna correct, in citizens appearance, Brian is actually not Bernardston Select Board, this is on page 2, Bernardston Column.
no, he's not Bernardston, okay. Finance. He's finance. Well, I didn't know.
This is okay? Okay. Okay? Everything else look okay?
I don't dare.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve these as printed, or as corrected, excuse me.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Were you able to get that, Ann? Ann? Were you able to get that? Okay. No, yes, okay. Okay. All right. Superintendent report. Go for it.
With the closing of Pearl Roads Elementary School at the conclusion of this academic school year, I'd like to recognize the value and importance that Pearl Roads has played in the lives of so many of our students, staff, families, and community members. The small class sizes and personal learning that Pearl Roads has provided over the years in our district has set the school apart as a welcoming, nourishing, and academically esteemed institution. The difficult conversations and choices that led to this decision were handled with grace, dignity, and respect by not only the families and staff of Pearl Roads Elementary School, but also the Leyden town officials. Their collaboration and cooperation embody the essence of community that this district is proud of. I also want to recognize Bernardston Elementary School and Bernardston town officials for their welcome and support to Leyden students, families, and staff to make the transition comfortable and positive for everyone affected by this change. While acknowledging the loss of such an incredible community school, we can also welcome the opportunity for positive growth and collaboration. I'm confident that next year will be an exciting time of new beginnings for both communities as they join together to continue to provide an excellent teaching and learning environment for elementary students. Uniting together will make our district stronger for future generations. I'd like to thank Bob Clancy, who recently announced his retirement following his hard work and dedication to our district. For the past 8 years, Bob has served as principal of Bernardston Elementary School, and for the past 2 years concurrently has served as principal of Pearl Roads Elementary School. Bob has raised and maintained a high level of student achievement, especially for our highest needs students. Bob has also started the important work of bringing two schools and communities together. I wish Bob all the best in his retirement, and I'm sure he's planning some exciting new adventures. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank
you.
I am pleased to announce the appointment of Mr. Kevin Burke as the new principal of the Pioneer Valley Regional School. Mr. Burke will begin on July 1st, 2019. Mr. Burke is an experienced and successful administrator who has served as principal at East Hampton High School for the past 4 years. He was the assistant principal at East Hampton High School for 2 years prior to that, and was a middle school mathematics teacher for 9 years, both at White Brook Middle School in East Hampton and Van Sickle Middle School in Springfield. Mr. Burke is very excited to be coming to Pioneer and looks forward to getting to know everyone. This Tuesday, May 21st, we will be hosting a community meet and greet from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Pioneer in the library. I'll send out a notice to everyone tomorrow. Please take the time to come and introduce yourself to Mr. Burke, ask questions, and get to know him. I'm very excited to have Terry Senio, Deputy Director from the Collaborative for Educational Services, speak tonight about two programs we are looking to build and expand. One is the Passages Therapeutic Classroom, which is early grades ages 4 to 7, and the Passages Transition and Reentry program for 7th through 12th graders. We're going to have a soft launch of these programs starting in the fall. Our hope is that these programs will be able to serve some of our district students that are currently placed in programs out of our district, which is very expensive, as well as generate revenue by having other districts send their students in. The district would receive around $15,000 in revenue for every out-of-district student accepted. The early grades program would have a capacity of 10 students, and the transition and reentry program would have a capacity of 12 to 14 students. I'm also pleased to have Kat Allen, Coalition Coordinator for the Franklin Regional Council of Governments, speaking about the Life Skills Elementary School program. Sheriff Donnellan from the Franklin County Sheriff's Office has offered to provide a deputy sheriff to teach this program next year in the elementary schools within our district at his expense. The Botfin Life Skills Training Elementary School program is a comprehensive, dynamic, and developmentally appropriate substance abuse and violence prevention program designed for elementary school students in grades 3 through 6. This highly effective curriculum has been proven to help increase self-esteem, develop healthy attitudes, and improve students' knowledge of essential life skills, all of which promote healthy and positive personal development. According to a study published in the Journal of Drug Education, more elementary schools in the U.S. choose to use this program over all other evidence-based prevention programs. Some of the program learning objectives are personal self-management skills, where students develop skills that enhance self-esteem, develop problem-solving skills, help them reduce stress and anxiety, and manage anger. General social skills, where students gain skills to meet personal challenges such as overcoming shyness, communicating clearly, building relationships, and avoiding violence. And drug resistance skills, where students build effective defenses against pressures to use tobacco, alcohol, and other drugs. So at this time, I'd like to call up Terry Senio, or do you want to stand and present from the Collaborative for Educational Services? She's here to talk about the two programs and answer any questions that were raised previously.
You want a mic?
I'm very, very pleased to be here. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
So I've been at the Collaborative for a while, and the past 2 years I've been working with all of the superintendents from Franklin County. As you may or may not know, the Collaborative for Educational Services provides member districts of 36 member districts. Essentially, it's all of Hampshire County and all of Franklin County. And we provide a variety of programs for youngsters who are identified with special needs. We provide professional development, coaching, any of the English language services throughout the two counties are organized through our staff at the Collaborative for Educational Services, and a number of other things such as cooperative purchasing. And we really work to serve our member districts and what their needs are. So about 2 years ago, I was called by two separate superintendents and their special education directors. And what they described to me was a need for a program for youngsters before kindergarten, preschool through grade 1 or 2, for youngsters who were acting in a way that was deemed unsafe by the teachers, other students. Parents were expressing concerns, and the school districts were at a complete loss as to what to do. At least one of those school districts, and this is not Pioneer Valley, but one of those school districts was transporting a 5-year-old down from up along the Route 2 corridor down to Springfield for him to get his kindergarten education. Not only that, the tuition was outrageous, and the cost of the transportation was even more. That's a horrible situation for the youngster, it's a horrible situation for the family, and it's a horrible situation for the school district, because none of that was going to work in the best interest of anyone. So with those conversations, we identified the criteria that we needed, the type of student that needed to have a particular program, and what types of services would need to be provided. So one of the most important things that we identified is that many of the families who are struggling with these youngsters have many struggles themselves, and they really do not know how to access the community services, and the public school teachers are not in the position to be able to help them access public services, whether it's counseling, medication, food, rent assistance. So with the design of this program, we put in together a clinician who would work with the families and the youngsters. The Collaborative for Educational Services houses a program that develops community partnerships, has a strong foundation in developing community partnerships around all kinds of community issues, particularly in rural communities. We have professional developers who are experts in behavior management strategies, creating safe environments for youngsters, ensuring that those youngsters receive a solid, rigorous curriculum, and that it's not just a matter of behavior management. That's not helping young children. So of course, that sounds very expensive, doesn't it? And that was a concern, and where are we going to place this program? So amongst the superintendents, John identified that he has in the Northfield Elementary School an expert preschool teacher, she truly is an expert, and a principal who has a good, long experience and practical application with providing for these youngsters. What we decided to do, because we know that it is really a cost for communities, and we're trying to save those costs, keep youngsters in their school at the earliest age possible so that they will never have to leave the school and they truly do feel as part of the community. So CES has partnered with Pioneer Valley Regional School District. We will hire the clinician. Pioneer Valley already has the elementary school teacher and a principal who's willing to take this on. So there is no cost for this soft launch. We know that we have at least one referral, so that will bring in tuition automatically, which will eventually pay for the clinician that CES is hiring. We anticipate that by December, we will have at least 3 other referrals. That's typically how that works, and there will be a point where Pioneer Valley will then be collecting the tuitions. Anything over our costs that we put out up front would be paid for, and then the tuition that's coming in would benefit all of Pioneer Valley. So that's really the intent, to save youngsters very early on, the community, the parents, and most importantly that we're not having these budget fights for one small child who's having some very serious difficulties to attend school. Any questions on that program?
I have a question.
Yes.
You say clinician, what level is the clinician?
A licensed social worker. So it's a licensed independent social
Yeah.
worker, yes.
So how's this priced?
How is this priced? So when we look at all of the service that would be needed, originally the program itself, throughout the course of an entire year, would be $250,000. That's why we're starting with the soft launch, to make sure that any payment up is done in a way that we know that we're going to be able to collect that without harming or forcing Pioneer Valley School District to make any upfront payment. As the tuitions come in, there is a certain set for the tuitions that if we're working with all that staff and adding staff, that the collaborative will obtain. And then there is a set price that John and his team and the special education director have set that the tuition would go to the school district. So students who are at Northfield Elementary School or in the Pioneer Valley School District would obviously use that program. That's their school. That's what they would be able to do that. It's only those students that are coming from outside of the district that would pay the tuition. That tuition should cover the cost of the program. So again, we're doing this essentially risk-free. We'll continue to reassess. I really think that the people at Northfield Elementary and John really should be commended for doing this. We know that there is a need. We know there's a need throughout the county. You hear about it in the newspapers of different school districts that have really struggled with this. And so this provides another opportunity. Yes.
So, sorry I was unclear. You've described the process. How much is it going to cost for District Z to send a kid to this program? What is
the cost of the program? I believe we set it at $43,000. Yes.
Which is relatively inexpensive compared to other programs. And then other students in our district would be able to be placed in this program instead of being sent out of district, which Terry said could be $60,000 plus the cost of transportation, which is extremely expensive. So not only will we save within our district and our district students, but also bring in revenue.
Right. A comparable program.
The circuit breaker kicks in, isn't it around 40,000?
That's extraordinary. Yeah, that's
Sounds
extraordinary. So a comparable program, so the youngster that goes to Springfield, his tuition is $55,000. So that gives you, they are expensive programs because there are significant needs. But once you leave, and I have to tell you, I was a special ed director in public schools for a number of years, and when a child leaves the district, sometimes it's really hard to get them back because there's been this disconnect. And the people in the public school really don't know all the things that have happened. And so those transition pieces make it fall apart, parents lose trust, and it's a very difficult situation.
Can you ballpark those transportation costs for that one student? Were they more or less than $55,000?
They were more. Yes.
It's my experience that a child, well, I have two questions. One is I did visit, I did visit, hello? Is that on?
No.
No?
I think it was on before.
So I did visit Northfield Elementary because I wanted to see the program that was currently there that this was getting added on top of. And I was really impressed by that. So programs need personnel and space to function well, right? So what I saw was already functioning was a preschool classroom with a room where children could go when they need to be out of that room. 2 rooms actually, one for academics and one for more sensory needs. So my concern is how would this program impact the program that's already in place? And then my other question is, each child that comes, in my experience, they would need a highly trained one-to-one to be in our preschool classroom or in our building. So the clinician sounds like a social worker, not a behaviorist, a trained behaviorist. So who is supervising the paraprofessional who's being in charge of the behavior program for the child?
Those are excellent questions. So yes, we have worked both with behaviorists and with licensed clinical social workers, and we have selected a licensed clinical social worker because they have that behavioral experience. They also understand what's underlying that the paraprofessionals, the intent of the program is really to train the staff that are going to be working with these youngsters. So if Northfield Elementary School has 2 children in this program and they have paraprofessionals with their teacher, they will receive that background training from the clinician and also learn about those resources. So it's not going to detract from any of the youngsters that are there, it will only add to. If a school district is sending a child with the intention of them returning to the public school, which is their intention, the paraprofessional would be hired, trained while they're in the program so that they could assist in that transition back to their own public school. That's really the intent of the program. So there's that constant communication going back and forth between the program itself and the sending district with the staff person, knowing, what are the triggers, what are the responses, what are the words I should be using, how do I manage this child, how do I communicate with the parent, what are some of the other needs that are not quite so obvious when you're sitting in a classroom with 15 to 20 students and the teacher is teaching. So how can I watch that? What am I watching for? And what do I do with that? And how do I communicate that to the parent? That's a lot of training that needs to happen. And unfortunately, as you probably are aware, many of the paraprofessionals are not given that kind of training, which just can, in some cases, exacerbate the problem.
Okay, so you're training, you've hired a social worker, not a PCBA?
Correct. That was intentional.
And who pays for the one-to-one for the child?
The district.
The sending district?
Correct.
And then they pay the $43,000 on top of that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Who absorbs the cost of the transportation for the out-of-district students?
The sending district.
The sending district.
And we're working with the districts all the time within those superintendent meetings as to how we can actually get creative in providing that transportation without that high level of cost. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done there that has nothing to do with the school district or the child, so we'll work on that. Any other
Thank you very much.
Okay, I do have one more program, and that is the Transition and Reentry program, and it is exactly what it sounds like. These are for your high school students, or grades 7 through 12. Again, Pioneer Valley Regional High School, which is where the program would be housed, already has the Bright program. So they have students within their school already who may have had some behavioral difficulties, social skills issues, conflicts with teachers, what have you, and the Bright program provides support to them right now. So they go into the Bright program, they do their academics there. It's staffed with a certified teacher who has good communications with others in the high school, middle school, high school. And you will also realize that there is a need. Oftentimes, as kids reach adolescence, things don't always go quite so smoothly. We have youngsters who are sometimes asked, who end up in a behavioral situation, an evaluation might be required, they might need an out-of-school suspension, and what they call an interim alternative setting, because of whatever the behavior was, they don't know what the genesis of it was. So to remove the child, give them the time that they need, while the school is able to figure out what they need to do to have that child come back. So the Transition and Reentry program is set up to take those students, whether they're from Pioneer Valley Regional School District or anywhere else in Franklin County, work with them in a smaller environment with a very highly trained teacher and an intake coordinator who is also a teacher, to gather the information about the student, do all the records, see if there were any testing that needs to be done, to understand, to work with that child on their behavior, and then work with the sending school district to send them back to school, or work with the teachers within Pioneer Valley Regional School District to say these are the kinds of things that need to happen. So we have a program that runs like this down at, it's called Mount Tom Academy. It's very, very successful. They have students from all of Hampshire County and beyond. Typically it runs at about 15 students through the course of the year, and we find that those students who come in at a younger age are able to transition back to their sending school. Over the past 2 years, we've had a number of students who have returned to their sending schools without incident when they returned. That was not an easy task. I know some of the school districts were really afraid to bring these students back, but they were able to go back without incident. Can't guarantee that that will always happen, but it does provide the opportunity for school districts to remain some level of control as to what happens with students. Sometimes we have youngsters who are in the custody of the state and they might be placed in a group home or a foster home, and when that happens, a youngster will jump from school to school. And then there is oodles and oodles of paperwork that needs to happen to figure out who really owns that student and who's going to pay for them for where they go to school. So these kinds of situations are already happening. This program will really provide a space and a process that will assist to kind of stop all that extra work that happens when these youngsters face these issues. Questions on that? Before staffing patterns, again, Pioneer Valley Regional High School has a teacher that does that program right now. CES would hire the intake coordinator, and we would pay for that until the program is running in such a way that there could be a reimbursement for that placement. That staff would remain as it is. It would not grow beyond that because there really isn't a need for it to grow beyond that.
Now, you said this is just for Franklin County students, is that correct?
It's correct, although if you have a Southern Vermont student that needs something, I'm sure that could be worked out, or a student from Southern New Hampshire. Potentially you could take students from anywhere, but we see the need. There is not a program like this in Franklin County at this time.
So, you described Mount Tom Academy, which is a successful program. Can you describe the difference between the structure of that and the structure of students coming into a functioning high school setting?
So the Mount Tom Academy is actually held on a college campus rather than in a high school. It's a one classroom schoolhouse. We have youngsters there from grades 9 through 12. The risk for those students is that they are on a college campus. So should anything happen, they are treated like adults. They are arrested by campus police. They may be barred from the campus. That's not necessarily what we want for 7th and 8th graders, but that's the place that we had, the space that was available, the dedication that they had to it. But there is a higher risk for those youngsters because of it being on a college campus.
Then my question is, it sounds like we have highly challenged students from across Franklin County coming into our high school, right? So how is that safe for the rest of our kids and teachers? And how are we structuring the program so that it works for everybody?
Those are really good questions. So there is a process, the intake process, and the commitment from the school district. It would not be incumbent upon Pioneer Valley Regional High School to take a youngster who is unsafe for the school environment. Oftentimes with these kids, it's the environment itself, it's their district, their school, it's a conflict with the teacher that they had that they don't know how to escape. It's not, you know, if we bring a student in and deem that that student is dangerous, that student would be asked to leave because that's not what we want to do. It's almost like a respite for a youngster who maybe needs a break from where they're at. It could be a youngster who has been in and out of district placement and the school's really not ready for them to come back, but the youngster poses no risk at all. It's just a matter of getting those services in place with the sending school. So it's not intended for a youngster to remain in this program throughout their high school career. It is intended that the youngsters will come, get what they need by having that communication with their sending district, and then they go back to their district. So it's really a transition process and a safe space to have that transition process.
So they go into the Bright program or a separate program?
It would be that we would partner with the Bright program currently. And again, tuition-based. At this point, we're looking at having the superintendents purchase slots. That was actually suggested by one of the superintendents from Franklin County. And so we'll be bringing that back to them, saying that we're ready to start this. And again, starting small so that we're working out all of the kinks before the floodgates open. And they probably will.
So, sorry to be so,
that's
it's a
fine.
big deal.
That's why I'm here.
I want to make
It's a
sure we
huge
understand
deal.
what we're getting into. So the process of the intake coordinator and the teacher, if it's determined that that child needs services, needs a one-to-one, whatever, the sending district pays for all that?
Yes. There is no risk to the district when it comes to any extraneous services.
What if there's a disagreement between everybody about what's needed? That's a common thing in education. So.
Right. That's, again, this is a safe space. It's not a be-all, end-all for every problem that a district might have with a youngster. Whether or not a youngster is taken into the program is up to the high school staff. The transition and reentry program is not a special education program, it's an alternative, although it may have students who are identified as having special education needs. But who stays in the school is like any other high school, it's up to the district to determine that. We would never force the district to hang on to youngsters that are creating an unsafe environment for the children that are in that school as their home school.
Are there any other questions? Any other questions from the committee? Yeah, go ahead.
I have a couple questions. So you said there's no other programs like this in Franklin County. Are we doing it for the money aspect? Are we doing it because we have open classrooms and we have the capacity? I just have a lot of questions about that. Why are we doing this now when we're in such flux? And to me, I think it brings up a lot of questions for the residents who are sending their children to PVRS.
I can understand that. There is not a program like it in Franklin County, and there is a need. That's one of the reasons why. Working collaboratively with all of the superintendents and John for Pioneer Valley, there is a benefit, a financial benefit for them to house the program. That's a reality. That's a good thing.
So there must be a cost-benefit analysis done.
Yes, yes. The other thing is, for your own district, for youngsters who are struggling, there's a place for them to go before something happens or before there's a need for them to leave the district. And I speak to that, and John and I have had these conversations, is that when a child leaves the district, for whatever reason, it is really hard to get them back. And sometimes that is the biggest disservice that we're doing. So to have a place that's just a safe space to hold them and figure out what's going on, for whatever reason it is, the chances of that child remaining in your district is exponentially higher. You don't know me, so I can say, trust me, I know, I've worked with this before. That doesn't really help at all. But I have run a number of programs where that is what has happened, where youngsters have been able to stay in their district. And so with special education, oftentimes people say the budget keeps going up, the budget keeps going up. I know you've all heard that, you've read it in the paper. Special education their cost is killing our budget. And so when we have the opportunity to control some things, it's really worth that control. And it's not just the money, it's the youngster being able to be in school where they live. That's really what it's all about. That the best school, the best education is in the public high school. It's in the public schools. That's where we want them to be.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You look like the Godfather.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for having me here today. This is my first time to Leyden Town Hall, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it always takes my breath away to drive out here every time I come out here. And I also just want to acknowledge what a challenging time it is right now for the district too. This presentation is a little more lighthearted than many of the things that we're discussing today, but it gets at some pretty heavy issues at the root, because I'm going to be talking about a substance use prevention curriculum. And this is obviously a very important issue today with, the opioid crisis, with legal marijuana sort of posing a new environment for young people.
Why is David Young not at the table?
I will say, yes, thank you, yes, say who I am. Is that what you said? Hold on one second.
Excuse me, David. David, could we have you come back to the space, please? Thank you.
Okay, no problem. And also with juuling and vaping and e-cigarettes being a new phenomenon spiking. But let me introduce myself, sorry. My name is Kat Allen, and I am one of the two coordinators of the Communities That Care Coalition. And I was asked to come speak about the life skills curriculum, which is currently being done in all of the middle schools in Franklin County and the North Quabbin, including Pioneer. And there is a proposal to bring it to the elementary schools as well. So, I've been with the Communities That Care Coalition for 15 years. This coalition, Pioneer, has been a part of the coalition since the beginning, 16 years ago. And we've been working on substance use prevention and promoting the health and well-being of young people for that time. So I'm going to tell you about the Life Skills program. This is Botvin Life Skills program, which is actually, it is a proprietary program, and somebody makes money off it. I don't. I have nothing to do with that, and I work for a not-for-profit organization. There's no cost to the school district for this program because the state of Massachusetts supports it. So the Department of Public Health provides the curricula and the trainings for free. So the only cost is the time on learning, and the staff time of a staff person who's already in the classroom delivering education using this program. Life Skills is a substance abuse and violence prevention curriculum for middle school students. Well, the core program is for middle school students. There's also an add-on for elementary and for high school students. But the core program, year 1 is in either 6th or 7th grade, and there's 15 classes. Then there's year 2 and year 3. The elementary school program, there's 3 years and there's 10 sessions in each year. Life Skills teaches, go figure, life skills. It teaches self-image and self-improvement, making decisions, coping with anxiety, coping with anger, communication skills, social skills, assertiveness, resolving conflicts, media influences, advertising, violence in the media, and resisting peer pressure. And those are the topics that we know help reduce substance use. So, back when I was in school, it was all about just say no to drugs, or, this is your brain on drugs, and so on. And what we know actually works now is building kids' social skills, building their emotional skills, and building their connection to school, to family, and community. And that's the bulk of what this program focuses on. There also are units on smoking myths and realities, alcohol myths and realities, marijuana myths and realities, and drug abuse and violence causes and effects. But actually in the future years when they, like the booster programs, year 2 and year 3 really just focus on those social and emotional skills, which are the core of the program. Life skills can be taught in health class or in the classroom, and social studies can be shared. This is maybe more detail than we need here. But it's supposed to be taught with all of the required sessions, with all of the required topics in the specified order. And we've been working with all of the middle schools, really trying to get the fidelity up so that the teachers who are teaching this in the middle school health classes are doing it with fidelity. It's a model program. It's been evaluated in more than 30 studies around the world and has been designated as a model program by all of these organizations, the Department of Education, the Department of Justice, the American Medical Association, American Pediatric Association, and so on. It's been tested and done in hundreds of locations with millions of students. And it's been shown to be effective at reducing youth substance use and violence. It's actually really one of the very top model programs in terms of getting outcomes. And we actually chose this program to promote in all of the local schools as a group. We had representatives from each of the public school districts in the region. As part of our regional school health task force, we reviewed all of the evidence-based substance use prevention curricula and said, this is the one that is sort of really going to get us the most bang for our buck and that we can do here. There are some studies that show that it, compared to control groups, kids that go through the life skills curriculum have 87% less use of tobacco, 60% less use of alcohol, and 75% less use of marijuana. Not every study is quite this strong, but it is encouraging. It also prevents other risky behaviors, not just those specifically covered in the curriculum, because it gets at those underlying skills. So, for example, research has shown an impact on prescription drug use, violence, HIV risk behaviors, and risky driving. It also prevents delinquency, physical aggression, verbal aggression, delinquency, and fighting. And this is one of the most encouraging things. The effects are lasting. So they've followed up students who received the curriculum when they were in middle school, and they compared them to students who did not receive the curriculum, and there's a big difference even when those students are 19, 20, 21, and 22 years old. I thought I had something in here that it also shows that it does reduce narcotic prescription drug use. So it's not just about reducing cigarette smoking, which not to belittle that, that's also very important, but it also has effects on prescription drug misuse and opioid misuse. In terms of who benefits from life skills, it's a universal prevention program, meaning all students can go through the program and all students get these benefits. But the highest risk groups have been shown to have the greatest benefit in reduction in problem behaviors. And research has shown that it benefits boys and girls of all races and ethnicities in rural and urban settings. This you won't be able to read, but I just wanted to share that the evidence-based registry, this is from the Surgeon General's report, and they compare all of the different programs, and we've compared it to the DARE program, which is now called Keeping It Real. And I can share these slides with you, anyone who wants, but it is more effective than the All-Stars program that used to be done in all the schools, and quite a bit more effective than the new DARE program, the Keeping It Real program, which has been revised from the old DARE program, but still has not been shown. It's not listed as a model program by any of the agencies that list model programs. So to tell you a little bit about life skills in Franklin County and the North Quabbin, the program is supported locally by the Communities of Care Coalition, where I work, by the Opioid Task Force, by the District Attorney's Office, the Attorney General's Office, Bay State Franklin Medical Center, the Department of Public Health, and many more. So there are a lot of organizations that have gotten on board and said, this is the program we want our students in our region to get. And we work to support the schools. We can provide evaluation support. We help organize trainings. The Department of Public Health provides everything, no cost to the schools. And we're trying to work with schools to get the fidelity up. And all the schools in the region, in Franklin County and the North Quabbin, all of the middle schools have been working on implementing the program. Not all of the elementary school schools are. The elementary school program has been tested less. The outcomes have not been shown to be as strong, but it's based on all of the same principles of building those social skills, those emotional skills. So let's see, we do a pre and post test. This is local data, and this shows how much how much knowledge students are gaining. Pre-test is green, post-test is blue, so you can see that lump is moving from pre-test to post-test, particularly in the younger grades. The later grades are boosters, and they're really just meant to keep up the knowledge, and so pre and post-test, we actually don't really see much of a difference in 9th grade. We're just keeping up those skills and that knowledge. But we have seen some really tremendous reductions in youth substance use in the region, and this is one piece of really great news that I can share with you, is that since we have been measuring, the coalition started measuring and began in 2003, and this was our youth substance use rates back in 2003, and you can see the really, really encouraging and substantial decline. When we started out, we were nearly double the national rates, and at this point, we're pretty much on a par with our national peers. So that is very encouraging, and I did want to see what questions people had and how.
That was a profound graph.
It's really profound. And the Pioneers data looks like this too. We have been conducting the teen health survey every year since 2003, and that data goes to the superintendent and the regional school health task force representative. It has data not only on substance use, but also on the underlying risk and protective factors, and you would be overjoyed to see how much the risk factor family management has improved and improved and improved over the last number of years. And there's a lot of really great news embedded in that survey. There's also some alarming news, like vaping is not shown on here because it's so recent, but you can imagine what the vaping rate looks like. All of our progress in tobacco smoking is being raised. And also youth depression is quite a bit on the rise in the last 6 years.
What was the last one? Depression?
Depression. Youth symptoms of depression and anxiety are really, really on the rise, and our schools are under resourced for mental health.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what questions can I answer? Any questions from the committee? No?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for
Thank
coming.
you very much for having me. Oh, sorry, I brought with me, I would love to share with anyone who's interested. I'll leave this by the door, but I have these conversation starter kits that kids love about getting family dinner conversations, because we know connection to family is so important. And I have some resources here I'll leave by the door, and please help yourself.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Steal it back, okay.
Okay. Senior class trip.
Hi, Amy. Thank you.
That's where you know it from. If you could send it to me, I'd appreciate it. Thank
Hi.
you. Hi.
Class at Pioneer. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
And I'm here to ask for approval for our 2019 senior class trip to Boston, which will take place on Saturday, June 1st through Monday, June 3rd. I don't know how much detail you need. I also have copies of our permission slip if anybody needs that. Yes.
Amy, in the past, there has been checking of suitcases and everything at the high school prior to boarding the bus. Is that going to continue to happen?
Yep, that's standard practice. The kids would arrive early and all luggage and students would be through that standard process, yes.
Could you just share a little bit about your itinerary and some of the things that you think the students will be participating in, please?
Yep, I sure can. We would be staying at a place called the Comfort Inn in Boston. It has some amenities right on site, such as a bowling alley, swimming pool, other kinds of arcade-type games, restaurants right there at the hotel. It's a short trip. It's a smaller trip than other classes have taken in the past, but it's what their funds account for. So they have the option of enjoying the amenities on campus, or on campus at the facility, at the Comfort Inn. There is also complimentary shuttle service to the local T station, where the co-advisor Tracy Derrick and myself would accompany students via the T into the city. Students are interested in visiting the aquarium. They're interested in exploring Faneuil Hall and eating, and I'm trying to get a group to go to some museums as well. Boston Tea Party Museum, maybe walk a little of the Freedom Trail. So really we wind up having just one full day there. The other 2 days are a lot of travel back and forth, but they're looking forward to it. Yeah.
What part of Boston is the Comfort Inn located in?
The Comfort Inn is located at 900 Morrissey Boulevard in Boston, Mass.
It's right in Boston itself. Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope you all have a wonderful trip.
Thank
and
you so
we hope to
much.
hear about it
that you're
upon
all
your return.
safe.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah. The student representatives, unfortunately, were not able to be here tonight, so, do you? Okay. So they did email us some information to share with the community. So prom preparations are underway. Prom is this Saturday. It's going to be held at the Montague Retreat, and it will be catered by the Smithsonian. Senior graduation is going to be June 7th at 6:30 at the school at Pioneer. Massachusetts Envirothon will be held tomorrow at Shoalin Farms in Leominster, and groups are going to compete to show their knowledge and expertise on this year's topic is abundant, affordable, healthy food. Last year, Pioneer placed third in the state. The Pops concert is scheduled for Friday, May 24th. Tickets are available at the door for bleacher seating, and all school committee members are invited to attend, in addition with the community. And that is it for the student representatives report. Okay, principals and then administrators? Who would like to go first? Go ahead, Elizabeth. Yes, please.
Good evening, everyone, and I'm going to try to keep this a little bit more low-key because I'm been told I'm a little too enthusiastic about Warwick, and I don't want to do that. So I'll try to curb my enthusiasm. But I do want to tell you that we have the end of MCAS in sight, like every other public school in the state. And again, I am every year just so impressed by the efforts that the children make to do these exams that are hours and hours long, and their focus and their perseverance is quite impressive, and I'm sure that that is the case in our other elementary schools as well. On Saturday morning, we have our pancake breakfast sponsored by the PTO and our 6th grade car wash and our garden club tomato plant sales. So if you like pancakes and shiny cars and plants for your garden, please come. It's a very good time.
Elizabeth, can you share the time with us, please?
Yes,
of
it's
those events?
it starts at 8:30. The first pancakes will be served up at 8:30, and I believe the last serving is at 10:30.
Thank you.
And it's always a grand time and a big turnout by the town as well as the school. So come join a happy event. We have an art club that's been going on. We actually have 40 children who enrolled for art club, which is being taught by a local artist, Janice Starmer, from our town, as a gift to our school. And we have had to extend it, cut it in half so that we have 20 children in each section. The kindergarten through second grade has just finished their 3 weeks, and the next group of 20 children, 3 through 6, will be starting next Wednesday. They're working in clay. It's absolutely marvelous. Whoops, sorry. It's very good. Our garden club is also meeting very regularly. Unfortunately, it seems like every time we plan a meeting, that's a forecast for rain. We have done a great deal of indoor gardening and flag making and sign making, but it still has been grand fun. Let's see, we have not had a music teacher, you all know, since midwinter. But I will say that it's given me and my librarian a chance to teach music and movement, and you probably are aware that my former career I was a dancer, so it is with great joy that I have been teaching movement with music every Wednesday morning since midwinter, and it's been a delight. I will say that it is a delight, and the children are doing so well. Let's see, what else? We have many field trips coming up. Our 5th and 6th grade are finally making their trip to Boston, which they were going to go to the Rural Schools Day, which of course got snowed out twice, so there's very much excitement about that. Other classrooms are doing other things. Just a lot of excitement and good spirit in difficult times. Thank you.
Thank you.
Was the Harold Greenspoon Excellence in Teaching Awards banquet at the Log Cabin in Holyoke, and Lynette Snedeker was the recipient for the Pioneer Valley Regional School District. There were 37 educators that were honored throughout Franklin and Hampshire County, and it was a great event. Lynette brought her husband Rob along. Chris McGuire was there. Mike Townsley was there, and myself, and it was an excellent event. Other things happening, Jen Comiskey's 3rd grade classroom had a poet, Sean Bates, working with the class for half a dozen visits, and they were writing about things that they were familiar with, turning it into poems about family, friends, food, and games. When their works were completed, their buddies from kindergarten came and visited, and they read their work. Bernardston has an artist in residence right now, John Percino, courtesy of a Mass Cultural Council STARS grant, and he's working with students there for about 6 weeks, doing some personal narratives and along with some performance. We just finished our last sessions of math, both at Bernardston and Pearl Roads, and happy to have that done. Bernardston and Pearl Roads staff have been meeting regularly on Friday afternoons primarily, as well as on a staff meeting day, and we're doing an awful lot of planning about the two communities joining together. One of the latest things that just came up today too was trying to come up with a celebration of the Pearl Roads building, and so there'll be some more planning with that, and hopefully working with the Leyden community. Let's see, the Bernardston primary concert was a Tuesday afternoon, and Lynette had kindergarten, first, second, third grade students sing a few songs, and it was very well attended by parents, grandparents, and friends. The upper concert for Bernardston is June 4th at 6:30. The Pearl Roads concert is Friday the 31st right here. And lots of field trips coming up. On June 7th, the Pearl Roads students and staff will be coming down to Bernardston, so we'll have a combined field day and move-up activities, so that along with some tours of the building, and we'll be inviting Leyden families to come visit as well, so that they can start to get accustomed to the building. And there will be more planning for get-togethers, hopefully something over the summer, and certainly a big open house in the fall. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello. So we have also received a STARS grant from the Mass Cultural Council, and this year we've gone with a STEAM theme to match our work in the district. We have Ted Watt from the Hitchcock Center in Amherst, the Hitchcock Science Center, and he's been working with all of our grades K through 6 at various times in the last few weeks on different engineering design activities. And to culminate all of that work, we are having a STEAM night next Thursday, 5:30 to 7:30. So all of the classes will have different displays of the work that they've been doing, as well as the PTO is supporting through, I think, the Northfield Cultural Council grant, or no, not for this one, an inflatable globe Earth that families can go into. So that'll be next Thursday. We're excited to celebrate their hard work. And Ted Watt, actually known as Mr. Ted, has been really wonderful for our students and our teachers as well. We also have a garden club, new or maybe revived. I know it's happened in the past at Northfield Elementary, but Cheryl George, our PTO co-chair, as well as our librarian, is leading that up with Jen Edwards, our first grade teacher, and I think Amy Tibbetts is also helping our second grade teacher. And they are volunteering their time to run a garden club on Wednesdays throughout the month of May. And we've actually had pretty good luck with Wednesday weather, surprisingly. I think it's the one day a week that isn't raining. And so we kind of talked about how many kids would we need to actually run it? Like, would we run it with 5 kids or 7 kids? And it's up to 36. So really exciting, great turnout, and they're doing work in our back garden as well as some of the flower pots and other parts of the grounds, so that's really nice. We also have our spring concert coming up Wednesday, May 29th. That'll be 4th through 6th graders presenting. There'll be a daytime version as well as a nighttime. This Saturday, we have our fun run, annual fun run and spring carnival. And again, we're lucky that it's going to be nice weather, and officially I will be in the dunk tank this year. I have escaped it the last 2 years due to rain, which was very sad for the carnival, but a little bit happy for me. But so if anyone wants to see me in the dunk tank, or volunteer, better yet, volunteer to be in the dunk tank, I bet there are still open slots. And then we are also wrapping up with MCAS. We have science Monday and Tuesday next week. And a lot of end-of-the-year events in a short amount of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean, before you start, can I ask one question? Megan, was the art project around the bees part of the whole STEAM unit with Ted?
It was not specifically related to STEAM,
Okay.
but, or with Ted, but sort of in sticking with the theme.
Yeah, okay.
That was Hillary's
Yeah.
idea.
So I'm Jean Bacon, I'm principal at Pioneer. The student representatives did a pretty good job of wrapping up what's coming up for us in terms of the end of year activities for our students. I just wanted to share with you, there should be a handout coming down the aisle that I gave to you, just to prep you for what's going to be coming from Pioneer at your next meeting. As you know, we've been working with our school council, which is a representative body of students, parents, and faculty, on some revisions to our student handbook to bring them in line with best practices around restorative practices as an approach to student discipline. So in order for you to be sort of prepared for what you're going to see in our new handbook next time, I thought I would share just this excerpt from the Department of Education, some guidance that they've released about best practices in student discipline. And I italicized a couple paragraphs. One I'd just like to read aloud for the community as well to hear. So one of the things that the Department of Education has reminded us in terms of dealing with student discipline in schools is that research has shown that suspending students from school for nonviolent offenses, and particularly suspending them repeatedly, has limited effectiveness in improving their behavior and performance and causes the student to fall behind academically. School leaders in Massachusetts and across the United States have found that by improving school climate through positive behavioral interventions, supports, and strategies, including restorative practices and conflict resolution, that they not only reduce suspensions, but also promote greater school safety, discipline, and academic success. So the restorative approach to student discipline is something that predated my entry into Pioneer, and it's something that we've been working to expand and codify over the last 3 years. There's still more work to do to move us in that direction, but one of the next important steps is for us to revise our student handbook to reflect this philosophy and approach to student behavior management. And on the back side of that, I've provided a handout from the Denver Public Schools that really does a nice job of articulating the difference between a more traditional punitive approach to discipline, which focuses on what you did wrong and your punishment or consequence for that, and a restorative approach, which really focuses on the misbehavior, acknowledging what's happened, and making steps to make restitution for the wrongs that have been done and harm to the community. So it's really focusing on harm to the community rather than punishment of the student. And again, it's something that's happening across Massachusetts and nationally as a reform and a way to improve student outcomes at the especially the middle and high school levels. So I'd encourage you to read those things in preparation for our discussion next time. And I have some extra copies that I'll leave in the back for any members of the public who might be interested as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I just have two quick things.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Kristen.
Chris.
That's all right.
I'm so
We always
sorry.
get forgotten about. Monday is Special Olympics down in Northampton High School for the whole region. It's a huge event. It was supposed to happen on the 13th, but of course we got rained out. So I'm hoping that this Monday happens. We have a bus going down with some of our students and their partners, and it's a really huge, big event, and my students are really looking forward to it. And one more thing from early childhood point of view, we have a family fun night on Wednesday, June 5th at Bernardston Elementary from 6 to 7. There'll be live entertainment and books and free snacks for our youngest students and their families. So those of you who might fit that category, please come. It will be a fun evening. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Director of Finance reports first. Sorry. I'm trying to rush through this agenda.
I know. I'm going to try to be short and sweet, but as we come to the end of the school year and the end of our fiscal year at the district, I kind of wanted to give a report on obviously what we're doing and where I see us coming out at the end of this year, because We've had a lot of struggles this year, and it has been a huge collaborative process between the principals, Chris in special ed, John, and I'm glad we're here in Leyden because Brenda, our financial clerk here in the district who processes all of our accounts payable and also helps with the after school and early childhood programs, her and I have really collaborated this year to really stay on top of the budget monitoring, running expenditure reports, staying on top of monitoring grant spending and revenues, reporting for those, getting our funds in. So we're looking really good. I'm anticipating that we will have hopefully a small E&D at the end of the year. So I just want to, while she's here, thank her for really helping me out and collaborating with me through the year to make sure that we stay on top of this. And I think we've done a really good job of doing that. And like I said, as we come to the end of the year, you'll notice when we get to some other financial reports, we're doing some interdepartmental transfers to take care of some things, and that's all part of monitoring the budget. But the fact that we got to May with the budget that we revised back in September, I'm very proud of the administrators in the district for being able to stay within their budget limits. Open communications has been huge with, again, the principals, the facilities director, and so forth, to make sure that it's a collaborative effort to get us back on track. So thanks for everyone involved in that. I did want to just make a quick note to, because there are some finance committee members here in the audience. As you know, one part of your guys' assessment that you pay to the towns is the capital project assessment. Sometimes those projects come in a little less, sometimes they come in a little more. In my closing of the books in FY18, part of the audit and the closeout was finding that there had been a balance from FY16 for a capital project that was X amount and we only spent X amount, so you'll see an adjustment in your assessments for that. I went back and allocated that based on the percentages that you were charged in FY16, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out. There was also a small balance left from FY18 of around $1,600 across the 4 towns, so you'll see an adjustment for that. And then in FY19, Tim was also able to get the carpet about $800 less than what was originally projected. So when you get your assessments for June, you'll see those adjustments on there. So I just wanted to give that information since there's some of you in the audience, so when you get those, you're not wondering what those are in regards to, but certainly send an email if you'd like backup or documentation or anything. On that, school lunch I'll speak to when I actually get to the school lunch report. The elephant in the room right now is the district's budget. Myself, along with superintendent schedule, the budget subcommittee and the school committee have been working really, really hard since January. When we started this process with the administrators, culmination of all of our meetings, a level services budget to this district with only one restoral, which was a half-time integration tech specialist that was requested by the principals because that had been gotten rid of years ago and they kept getting promised that was going to bring back. Other than that, it was a level services budget. We were going to be bringing to the towns a budget with a 7.68% increase. And through the work of the administrators and the superintendent and the budget subcommittee, we were able to bring a 1.65% increase to the towns. And since then, the commissioner has approved the additional decrease to the budget of $47,244, bringing it down to 1.14%. And I just wanted to put that out there because one, I'd like the school committee members to be able to represent us with the, that information when they attend the June special town meetings that are going to happen, because our budget has now failed in 3 of the 4 towns. Leyden still has their meeting on June 18th, but at this point the budget has failed, unfortunately, even after all the hard work that the administrators and our school committee has put into this process. But I think it's important to understand where we started and where we got to and all the hard work that has been put into this. And I'm hoping that the towns can appreciate that and understand that John and myself were only on board for 6 months when we started this budget process, and there's a lot more work to do. But very cliche, Rome was not built in a day, and the disaster, if you will, that this district got itself into was probably over a 10-year process. And I really think the towns not necessarily need to give us some time, but need to appreciate the work that's been put into this, as well as give us next year to continue to come up with these outside of the box ideas, like the collaborative program that Terry and John presented to you guys tonight. So that's it for my report.
Go ahead, sorry. Karen had her hand up first, but I don't know. Karen.
Sure. I just want to say how nice it is to look at a expenditure report and not see any negative numbers. So I want to commend administrators and Tanya and anybody else who had a hand in achieving that. That is a big change. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that, because a year ago we were in a very different place, and it was very scary and very frustrating. And I just want to note that the not passing of the budget, as Jeannie and I were sort of conferring, was partly due to the towns feeling unsure about the numbers still. So I don't want you to feel like people don't appreciate your work, because I certainly do.
So I just want to clarify that the Commissioner of Ed approved our adjusted budget on May 1st. Those letters went to all the towns, including the two that had their meetings on May 8th, or was it May 6th and May 8th, prior to those meetings. So they had the amounts available to adjust on the floor. Warwick actually did adjust the number correctly on the floor, and it still failed. Northfield simply passed over that budget, but those numbers and amended assessment letters were created and sent to the towns on May 2nd, as well as sent to them electronically, so they had them in plenty of time to bring those to their annual town meeting floors for the meetings that have occurred at this point in time.
Maybe not, just saying.
Well,
whether people feel comfortable with it or not, I just don't want, it doesn't negate all the good work.
Right, so I'm just saying it was approved by the commissioners. They stated that, some of them stated they hadn't received it, which was misinformation, I felt like, to the public, unfortunately, because they had received that information and they had the number. And like I said, Warwick specifically, because I went to that town meeting, John went to Northfield. We were both in attendance at Bernardston. Warwick did actually discuss both parts of the budget, and they did correct the amount that we needed to cover the amended budget. So they did do that. However, in Northfield, they passed over it completely. In Bernardston, it was separated out into two parts, and when one part failed, they passed over the actual operating, so that number wasn't actually discussed either. So they did have the information with the updated budget that was presented and approved by the commissioner on May 1st. So the information was out there, and I worked very hard to make sure that our overseer got that approved from the commissioner before those first annual town meetings were held.
All right. Anything else? Yes. Sure.
I just want to thank you, Tanya, because I've been in this district now for 7 years. This is the first year that I have been in this district where the budget has not been frozen for administrators before January 1st in October. So this is a change for us, and I think we've been frugal in part because we haven't been able to spend money before.
There's a lot of supply money still in the budget.
Okay. Anything else?
All right.
Okay. Yep. Next. Does anybody have any questions on the accounts payable, and has it been passed around and signed?
Haven't seen it. At the bottom.
No.
Huh?
The balance at the bottom is
Don't spend
So I'm gonna just pass the accounts payable down, and you guys can look over that. I don't know, was there any, when looking at the accounts payable that was sent out, was there any questions on any particular expenditures, or do we want to move on to the financial reports and allow the committee to sign the accounts payable?
One quick thing.
Yep.
It seems like the Northfield substitute line, where we sort of beefed it up because we were so concerned about what happened last year, and this year it's got a lot left in it. I know we were working a lot with substitutes and planning for next year.
No.
I just didn't know.
So can I get to that when we go through the expenditure report? I just wasn't sure if anybody had any specific questions on the actual accounts payable list that was spent. Okay, so I will let them pass that around. I do just want to, and I emailed Kristen about this today specifically, this particular meeting would have normally been held last Thursday, but we provide scholarships through scholarship accounts and other means in May typically, so we always push the meeting out 1 week in May. What happened is it aligned with a payroll week, so the expenditure report that was provided to the school committee on Tuesday has then, on my end, when I went to do the categorical report today, has changed due to payroll numbers. And due to the schedule, that's actually going to happen the next 2 meetings as well. So I did not provide a categorical report for you guys tonight because the numbers did switch, but it was just payroll related, so it doesn't really change where we're at in the budget, so to speak. It just changed like what's actually left encumbered and so forth. So I will make sure to run those reports at the same time. So I do apologize for that, but everything still looks good, and we're on the same page. I do want to go to the bottom. I don't want anyone to get too overexcited or overzealous at this point in time. The budget balance that's left essentially unexpended right now is about $500,000. And I've explained this in prior meetings, but I kind of like to reiterate. Some of our staff are not over 20 hours, so they do not get encumbered in the budget. So as those staff members get paid, it comes off the budget balance. So we do not have $500,000 left. In addition, working with Brenda, as I mentioned, there are some purchase orders out there that we closed out kind of as a management tool for us to look at what's really left and what bills we still have coming in. So we're pretty much on a weekly basis at this point analyzing those and making sure that we're going to come out on top at the end of the year. So we don't have $500,000 left, but we are in a good spot. And like I said, I do anticipate us having some E&D. There are, end of the year expenditures and stuff still coming. I know a lot of the schools have ordered some supplies for end of the year type projects. I know Bernardston was working on something specifically, so they were ordering some supplies. But we have done, I think as a district as a whole, a really good job of managing this budget this year. So hopefully we can continue this, and the administrators, like I said, have been really, really good about managing it, and the facilities as well. So, and you'll notice when we get on the next sheet, actually, we don't have any transfers to actually vote, but in the budget management process, as the district director of finance, we have the capability to transfer within those 16 categories. So all of the information only transfers you have in front of you are specifically because something might have happened in facilities and there might not have been maintenance of building money left, but there was custodial supplies. So that's all part of managing your budget. It's kind of the same at home. If your car breaks, you might be eating peanut butter and jelly this week instead of steak. So, that's all part of managing the district's budget as well. And like I said, considering we got to May without really having to do any of that, other than for teachers' contracts and some other larger items that came up through the year, I expected to be doing this much earlier on this year, to be perfectly honest. So pretty happy with that. There is an item on here. It's not on the agenda to vote, but I just wanted to bring it up for discussion, as I will ask for a vote on June 13th. From the rural aid funds, we originally had $2,500 budgeted for a set of French 1 textbooks. And this will need voted to allow us to spend it before June 30th at the next meeting, but just so you guys can be thinking about this, in speaking with the French teacher, the $2,500 is enough to purchase the books, but it's not enough to purchase the collaborative education pieces that go along with it and all the tools that's part of that package. So what she has requested, and there is a note on here that it's not enough to purchase a full set of textbook and supporting resources, but the teacher has requested to be able to purchase other learning tools that would benefit the kids in the class and the ELL students that she serves. So I will be requesting that transfer in June so that she can order some of those things for the classroom. Unfortunately, we can't take a vote though tonight because it's not on the agenda. Moving on quickly to the revenue report. All is pretty much well here. I've spoken to it in the past, and it's part of the budget management process. We know we have a couple lines where our revenues are not going to come in where we expected them, and that's our tuition, our transportation, and our Medicaid's looking like it's going to be a little bit under, but that one's kind of like playing darts because it's a very complex calculation that we don't do within the district. But I've accounted for all of those, and with looking at the budget and what we do have in a budget balance, we're going to be okay. And like I said, I still feel like we're going to have some E&D going into next year, not just breaking even. So that's where we're at with the revenue. The only thing in the town assessments is one of the capital payments is in there, so that should be a straight 20%, but that will be reclassified before the next meeting. And I took care of the Chapter 70 where it showed that we received more money than we had. That was an error on DESI's part. Because we got an advance at the beginning of the year, they were supposed to be manually adjusting that every month, and they hadn't, so they had actually advanced us or given us more money than we were due for the year. So we're recording a liability on our books for that, and they'll adjust it next year because they can't come into our bank account and take it back. So we've taken care of that, and I've spoken with DESI on how to manage that. So I think that's it for the financial reports. Next is the lunch report, and as all of you know, our food service manager, his last day was last Wednesday, May 8th. In addition to that, we have, I don't know what her real title was, but I'll call her our school lunch administrator, who did a lot of the recording of the lunches served. She also was the server over at Warwick, and she's been out on medical since April break. So I'm wearing 2 hats right now, actually about 3. So I did prepare the March lunch report. The April one wouldn't typically be in here anyways because we don't get the bank statement for the account that the people pay online until around the 15th. So it's not enough time to get the full report done. But long story short, we are still in the black for the lunch report. I did want to address, I don't know, where is that? I think you had the question about why Pearl Roads had been in the negative with a couple of the past. So the more I've been able to really kind of sink myself into the school lunch and understand it more and be more hands-on with it, I think one of the reasons, unfortunately, that Pearl Roads does have a deficit, and there's a couple things that could play into that, and as I do a full school lunch audit, which I'm going to be doing over the next couple weeks with the absence of the food service manager and Holly being out and doing some of the entering, we have to pay someone to go to Bernardston to get those lunches every day. So it doesn't matter how many kids eat or whatever, that's a stipend part of their salary to do that. And in addition, each school has a different percentage of free and reduced lunch students. So whether the meal's free or whether they get charged for it, the food cost to that school doesn't change. So I think those 2 factors are what's playing into Leyden in particular looking like they have a deficit right now. So that's where I'm at with that right now. I just wanted to give you a report because I said I would, and if I find that it's pertaining to something else, then I will certainly bring that next month. But we are looking like we're still going to break even, slightly come out ahead even after we pay summer salaries with our school lunch program this year. And next year, Holly, who I spoke of that went out on medical, this is part of the staff changes probably, but she won't be returning. And one of the major parts of her job was entering lunches served. The system that we have, the high schoolers have a card and they swipe for their lunches. This has not been done in the elementary schools. It's all been handwritten and on paper. It's not efficient, nor is it accurate. Lunches might be missed being recorded, so forth and so on. So that's part of the school lunch audit that I'm going to be doing. But we will have terminals in each of the elementary schools next year, and the students will either have cards or a number that they can use. And we're working with the technology department as well as the cafeteria managers in each of the schools to come up with a way that will work for the district to be more efficient, cost effective, and for the cafeteria managers in the schools. So that will work out for us. So I think that's about it for the school lunch.
Any other question?
Yeah, I haven't looked at all the possible places it could be, but has the position for food service manager been posted?
It has not been posted yet because we're so close to the end of the school year this year, and that wasn't, I don't believe when we hired for that, it was a year-round position, so it will be posted potentially to start in August for ordering.
In addition to that, my concern is that, do we have anyone who has been certified for food safe yet?
I do believe we have food safe certified individuals in each of the schools, but I think John could maybe answer to that, or
Because
the
that's
principals.
my concern.
I do know that we have, I was gonna say, I think we have people in each of the schools. Yeah, I was gonna say,
Okay.
yeah,
All
and,
right, thank
and I
you.
do know that we sent a couple to that
No,
certification specifically
Thank
this
you.
year. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
She wrote the check. That's different.
Any other questions regarding the lunch report? No? Okay, moving on.
All right.
So awesome to have a lunch report.
All right, the signing of the warrants has been completed. Subcommittee reports.
Negotiations met earlier tonight. And since it is negotiations, we really can't talk about it. But we do have a couple meetings set up for the end of May and the beginning of June.
Building and Grounds has no report. They haven't met. They will probably in another week or so.
I couldn't understand any of that.
No.
What?
They couldn't
Couldn't understand what you said.
Yeah.
Well, the Building and Grounds has not met. We will be meeting in another couple of weeks, though.
Okay. The Curriculum and Personnel Subcommittee met on April 22nd, where we further discussed the life skills program that you heard about this evening. We also worked on revising a memorandum of understanding between our district and the Franklin County Sheriff's Department for provision of that program and a part-time school resource officer for the elementary schools. Since that revised MOU was not available to the school committee members before the meeting, we're postponing a vote on it so that you will have time to read it before the next meeting. I believe it's in your packet tonight.
It is.
Yep.
Well, as you know, the budget process has been lengthy, but with the accurate numbers from Tanya and working with the fellow budget subcommittee members, I think we've made some serious headway this year. I would recommend that the budget subcommittee meet the 21st, which is, I believe, Tuesday. What time would be convenient for everybody? 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
All right. Does that work for everybody? 6 o'clock, May 21st? I think so. Okay.
Pioneer?
Yeah, Pioneer, conference room.
I think you should post that as a full committee just in case.
I believe we're,
We can talk about that.
yeah,
Have you got time to post
yeah.
for that
It's
day?
only 48 hours.
I think after that meeting, during that meeting, we'll decide the final recommended budget, I believe, and request a special school committee meeting to have a final vote to present to the towns and have clarification to the towns before June 3rd. Thank you. I'll let the chair handle that.
Given the posting time frame, it would have to be posted tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Stacy will post it. Now, Kristen, would you want to address scheduling a special school committee meeting following that final budget subcommittee meeting? We basically need to do it before June 3rd because. Yeah.
So if the special town meeting that's going to happen that the towns have all requested and have scheduled, I think is for June 17th, they have to post that warrant June 3rd. So that puts us having a budget subcommittee meeting, a special school committee meeting, and getting the commissioner's approval if there are any recommended changes. We could be presenting the towns with the same budget that's presented right now. I'm not saying there's going to be changes, that's why we're having a meeting, but if there are, we need to have that voted by the school committee and approved by the commissioner, and to the towns, I would think by the 31st or 1st, so that they have sufficient time to prepare their warrant for the special town meeting on the 17th. I know it's not a full warrant, but they still need to be able to accurately prepare that warrant document for that special town meeting. And I have spoke to Rick Kingsley, our commissioner, and he said, you know, as soon as I get it to him, if there are any changes, he will make sure that it gets processed as quickly as possible through the commissioner, but he can only do so much. So just trying to think that maybe we want to go ahead and schedule that special meeting for next Thursday.
Next Thursday?
I don't know if that works for the whole committee, but because the following week is Memorial Day, which is Monday off, and then the first is a Saturday. So we would really have to have it done and approved by the school committee and the commissioner by Friday. And with a holiday, I think that poses some time constraints also.
Is everyone available on the 23rd?
Which date?
23rd, next Thursday?
23rd. I am.
What date are we talking about?
23rd?
May 23rd.
That's a week from today?
Correct.
Yeah. I can make that date.
What time?
7 o'clock. 7 p.m. Pioneer.
7 p.m.
Okay. At Pioneer?
Yes.
Library?
Yes. Yep. Go ahead.
I just want to ask about the 521 for the budget subcommittee, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Yeah. Does that, I didn't catch the time on the meet and greet from the principal.
Oh, 5:30.
5:30.
Yeah.
What's the date of that, Sean?
The same day.
The 21st.
It's an all meeting.
Yeah, we get the meeting.
Excellent.
That's good.
Works out perfect. Okay. Anything else for budget?
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay. The policy subcommittee has been working tirelessly trying to get some policies in place and updated. We have been working on the student activities account with Tanya. We have one more revision to complete, and we're hoping that that will be completed and read by all the committee members before the next meeting, and then we can take a vote to accept it and implement it. We do have a media release policy.
Excuse
that,
me.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
To get back to when has a policy subcommittee meeting date been posted, been decided?
The next policy subcommittee meeting is Monday, June 3rd at 5:30
Yeah, thank you.
at Pioneer.
Monday, June 3rd. At 5:30.
So the policy subcommittee did address the need to have a media release policy, and everyone has a copy of that in their packet. Has everyone had an opportunity to read that? Are there any questions regarding it? No?
No, I don't think it was on.
Was this provided ahead of time?
No.
The media release policy?
I believe Stacy provided it.
I didn't see
No.
it.
I didn't get it.
No.
At all.
No?
So
No.
I haven't looked at it. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. So we can take a moment, we can review it, or if people feel more comfortable needing time, we can also vote on it similar to C&P Subcommittee and vote on it at the next meeting.
That would be my preference.
I don't want to have to.
Okay, that's fine. Is everyone in agreement?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Okay. Given the transition in my role here, I was the subcommittee chair for the policy, and we are looking for a replacement.
I have a nomination.
Okay?
Jessica Marshall.
I'd second that.
I had spoken about this at another meeting, which I didn't understand was about being the chair of this committee. And I'm sorry that I cannot be the chair of the policy committee. This is the fourth subcommittee I would be engaged in. And I don't feel that I have the skills to do that.
Thank you for nominating.
Yes, I would like to nominate Abby Pratt.
Okay.
Second.
If there's nobody else, then.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you. She accepted it.
All right. Thank you, Abby. All right. Let's take a quick vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Go Abby.
Thank you very much, Abby. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Abby.
So Tanya's just going to take a quick minute to update us on something we forgot at the beginning.
Being that we're in Leyden, and I didn't want to forget this, one of the things that I've been communicating back and forth with Michelle on, and I know there was some question too, was the compensation that was part of the budget vote that happened on April 11th, which was $11,300 to Leyden for building and grounds, et cetera, maintenance of the building. So there are all kinds of anti-aid laws in the state of Massachusetts and so forth. And because we are not giving up the building, so to speak, the lease until August 31st, the district actually would only be compensating 10/12 of that because there's only 10 months in the year. So that $11,300 is the whole budget for those line items for Leyden for the year. But I have collaborated and worked with the overseer and Russ, our attorney, who's here, so that's why I wanted to speak to this really quickly. And we reached out to the state, and we did get a mechanism for which we can pay monthly installments to the town of Leyden, and this is through an intermunicipal agreement that would have to be voted on by the Leyden Select Board. We will have a draft of that to the school committee. Obviously, we didn't have it in time, and it couldn't get on tonight for a vote. But that will allow us to pay Leyden those 10 monthly installments for FY20 until the building is repurposed by the town of Leyden. So I just wanted to put that out there and let the school committee know that we have worked out with the state a mechanism for that to happen that is legal. If we just paid them and didn't have an agreement, it would be a violation of anti-aid law because it would be a donation to the town. And we can't continue to pay expenses on a building we don't have a lease on because then we don't have a mechanism to report it in our end of year report. So the list goes on, and this was the solution for it. And I do have a draft of that that Russ and I kind of went back and forth a couple times on the language and the dates and stuff that I'll provide to the school committee this week, so you guys have it for a vote on June 13th. And I'll provide a copy of that to you as well, Michelle, because the select board will also have to vote, and maybe your chair can talk to our chair and figure out how to collaborate that vote to just get that in place before August 31st when the lease is over. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Tanya. Lastly, for subcommittee reports, the district agreement subcommittee has been meeting. We believe we have a final revision. We're now waiting review from legal to ensure that we've met the criteria. And then we will disseminate that to the members so that we can review it and take a vote on it to either accept it or do something else with it. Go ahead, Sue.
So is it Russ that's reviewing or is it Desi leaving?
It would be Russ that would be reviewing it. And
Then it will go to Desi.
and
Not to,
No.
not the new version.
Yeah, and then, okay.
The original one had gone through Desi, and I
Correct.
know they had a couple of things, but they told us once they severed that they would have
We
to.
didn't change anything that
We'd
Desi
have to
had
do that
recommended.
on our side.
You reviewing independently of
Yeah,
that?
I mean, if I can get a Word version.
Yeah, I'll get you a Word version. We've just had a lot of documents to type up and create, so.
Oh, that's right, Stacy.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Stacey's fingers are gonna fall
all right.
soon.
On to old business. Number one is reconsideration of vote not to close Warwick Community School.
Kristen, before we begin?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that David Young recuse himself from this
Discussion and vote.
Why? Why?
Second.
You can't make, so it wouldn't be legal to make an elected official not be allowed to vote on something. The only group that could do that would be the state ethics committee, but I think that's already been reviewed.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I'm just writing my notes. Okay. Reconsideration of vote not to close Warwick Community School. Discussion?
Is there any motion that's going to be made?
Go ahead, Sue.
I just want to clarify.
Mhm.
This is a vote to actually engage in the reconsideration,
Correct.
not the reconsideration itself. Right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Is there a motion?
I make a motion for reconsideration.
I'll second it.
Point of order?
Who was the second?
Second.
Okay. Go ahead.
Did you vote to?
Vote to close. So it should come from somebody that to keep it open.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Well, there was, but if it has to come
I
from
think-
somebody who voted.
No, I don't think
I
they
make a motion that we reconsider.
No, I think, are you asking about the motion that was previously on the floor, asking David Young to recuse himself?
No.
That was
Now
dead.
it's done.
That's
So that was.
So it's
not
done.
applicable.
It
It's been
would've
The
withdrawn.
way reconsideration works is one of the committee members
Who
that
voted.
voted to keep Warwick open. would
And
have
what
to make a
meeting was
motion
that?
to
Was
say
that
they wish
April?
And that was me.
Yeah.
That's
So you voted.
Does a second have to come from somebody that,
Just the motion.
just a motion, then I'll second the motion that was just made.
Okay. All right, discussion?
Well, I guess the first thing I'd like to say is, a lot of the discussion in the past wasn't really clear. Discussion that was had in the past really wasn't clear regarding the students. We haven't really talked much about the students at Warwick or at Northfield, which would be the receiving school. And I think that's probably the biggest issue that I see with where we've come from and where we should be going. The main thing, I think everybody's got the paperwork here that shows the 2019-2020 projected combined classes. So what I see for a benefit to the students is better capability of the teacher to provide a fair and equitable classroom education based on the sizes that have been provided to us from the administration. As you can see, Northfield class sizes are, pretty good size right now. And if we merge the two schools, we move to an average class size of roughly 16 in the classes. So the teachers, it would benefit the teachers to be able to educate the kids with the smaller classes. So to provide that capability to the teacher to be able to focus on less students, especially in a time where we have special needs, IAs, paras, whatever they're classified as, it improves the educational process for everybody, including Warwick, on the social aspect of having more kids to socialize with. This is not to take away from what Warwick has provided and may continue to provide based on what happens tonight, possibly. I'm not opposed to what they have provided. They've done a good job, but can we do better? I think we can do better. I think we can do better on the financial side also. The closing of the school and merging with Northfield would provide reduced assessments, which provides us more opportunity to focus on further plans and start planning for the future in a 2, 4, 5-year planning studies to where we want to be. But we need to get this improvement taken care of, I believe, this year. It's an improvement to the students, it's an improvement to the teaching staff, and it's an improvement to the assessments that the towns have been requesting. I've spoken to a lot of seniors. This even trickles down to your seniors in your communities that are on fixed incomes. That's one of the big things I've heard is fixed incomes. But I want to focus on what it does for the students. It does improve. Two schools coming together, it improves both of them. So I would like to see that. Nobody wants to close a school. Nobody wanted to close Leyden. But financially, we need to start being proactive to have a better future. Thank you.
I'm sorry, is that evidence-based or just something?
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, at this time we can't accept questions. Okay.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Tanya, do we have any figures on what it's going to look like in FY21 for the deficits if we keep it open? And what kind of an impact is that going to have to our budget down the line?
So I don't have all 20 scenarios with me that we played with this year, but I do recall that this essentially, the Warwick, the Leyden, not only does it give us a chance to collaborate, as Mike spoke to, educationally, but it certainly is going to help us financially, not only lower the assessments to the town, but it gives us a real picture of what it takes to educate all the kids in the district equitably. And then we can once we have that in place, we can start, like Mike said, it's really hard to project future plans when we don't, even though there's savings that were projected in that budget, once we know the true student numbers and what those services are, we can actually do that 2, 3, 4, 5-year projection. But until that actually happens and we see how that works, it makes it really hard to project out in the future. Having a 1.65% increase instead of a 7.65
obviously brings down the deficits we're looking for in the future because we're making efficiencies.
Right.
And like I said before, John, as well as myself and all of the administration in the schools, are really continuing to think outside of the box, making sure that we're not having class sizes of 26, but if we have class sizes of 11, how can we make efficiencies? Can we combine classes? If we have teachers that don't have full class loads, can we consolidate while still providing the same services to the students? So that's all part of this process, and it needs to happen collaboratively. I do want to speak, and this may be part of answer the question too. Doc Prine spoke to the item of the income for the school choice. And that's always the elephant in the room with Warwick, because half of the students that attend that school are school choice. If we don't, roughly half, if we don't have the students, we wouldn't need the staffing. So that, if we are only going to get one kid, and one of those choice kids that comes to Northfield, then that may mean that we may or may not need those 3 teachers that are coming down. So, as I've spoke to before, it would essentially be a wash. If we have half of those kids come down, so we're actually have just been brainstorming on, because once those kids are in the district, they don't have to re-register every year. Once they're choiced in, we own them until grade 12. But we're looking to see, in brainstorming, if there's a mechanism that if the school committee were to vote to pass this, if there's a way that we can get the school choice students to say yay or nay to confirm, because we do need to plan for next year. It may be that year 1 we have all those 3 teachers, so the savings may essentially be only $72,000 in that first year. But if we know that we're not going to have those students the next year, then we make efficiencies again so that those savings would be carried throughout the years after.
I guess the point I was really trying to make was that it brings us closer to a more self-sustainable situation.
Right. And it's
a lot closer.
Right. So that among, alongside of everything that the administration is doing is part of keeping this district sustainable, financially and educationally.
Okay. Is there any more discussion?
If I can.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, yes. David, go ahead.
Go ahead.
If you call her first.
Oh, okay.
David
Go
can,
ahead.
and I'll finish.
Sorry, I can't see you over in the corner. No, just we're
Go ahead.
continuing the discussion if anybody else wants to discuss. Yes, please, go ahead.
I have two questions. I would like to hear the superintendent's recommendation on this matter, and I would like to know what's new since because this question was asked and answered previously. So what is new? Generally, reconsideration is based on new information, and we did a poor job arguing this, and you voted the way we didn't want. Isn't that so? What's the superintendent's recommendation to the school committee, and what new information is there since we last voted?
I'm going to provide the facts. It's not my job to give a recommendation to the school committee.
Yes, it is. We're asking for it, though.
That kind of money?
Okay, you want my recommendation? There's 29 district students in Warwick, the same number as Pearl Roads. Okay, you close Pearl Roads. We're looking at saving $202,170. Like Tanya said, I think efficiencies could be made. And if you're asking for a recommendation, I would say maybe lean towards closing the school. I think another big elephant in this room is everybody's talking about the merger with Gil Montague. If we don't consolidate as a district first and do everything here that we can possibly do, why are we discussing that merger until we do everything we can do here in our own district? Let's take care of our own district first. Okay, put the students in our district first before we talk about giving our district away to Turner's Falls. That's my recommendation.
Pat had something to say, so if we could go to Pat, please.
Okay. I have no problem with.
We can't, it's all gobbled
Okay.
up here.
All right. All right. Is this better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I understand why it's nice to have larger classes, etc. But my problem is that probably 20, 25 years ago, we started talking to Leyden about closing their school. At the time when we were all building new schools or renovating, Leyden decided not to. But still we were talking about what we did with Leyden. Did we close their school or did we not? We only pulled this, and I pulled this on Warwick a year ago. To me, that's not long enough for the community to get behind us and feel comfortable about the whole deal. And I think that's my biggest thing. That's number one. Number two, John brought up about the merging. I was really sad to hear at the Bernardston town meeting, one of the selectmen stating that when we started deciding whether we wanted to join with other districts, that we talked to other districts, Mahar being one, and they turned us down, and that the other districts we talked to turned us down too. That is altogether incorrect. I have letters in my file that I got from superintendents from every district in our county except for Frontier, that and I actually don't think we ever sent one to Frontier because of the distance, that they, for one reason or another, did not at that time feel like joining with us. Whether it was their financial problems they were having, or problems with administration, or whatever it was, what was stated at the Bernstein town meeting was so incorrect, it really made me boil. So just so people realize that it wasn't us that turned them down at that point, it was them that turned us down. So that's my high horse I'm getting off from.
Go ahead. Yeah, I just didn't hear what's new.
Can I answer that? The information that I didn't have, that's I think relevant as of the last school committee meeting, was the number of kids that come into Orange that once they get to 6th grade that don't move on to Pioneer. There's only been 2 kids that have moved on to Pioneer from Warwick that are school choiced in from Orange. The other thing is, we voted last meeting regarding pre-K and K. This is all stuff that was after the vote originally. That is, to me, new information that we were not provided, and I don't know why we weren't provided it. I don't know if the administration or the principal didn't provide it, but that's stuff that should have been known and presented to the school committee during those discussions. I think that looking back to something that happened 25 years ago is not what we want to be doing. We've looked back long enough. We need to look forward. We need to look and provide for the kids' futures, not looking back at what we have done in the past. So we need to focus on where we're going, not where we've been.
Can I just make a comment real quick to add to the new, Kristen, real quick? I, as I mentioned, attended the Warwick town meeting and mentioned before that I don't have a bone in this. I don't live in the district. I don't have kids here. But when you look at the generation that is here now, even my generation, people aren't having kids like they used to. Through the consultant study that happened, there was proof that populations are declining, the amount of kids that are coming into our schools are declining. And I sat at the Warwick town meeting and they announced, I don't remember the exact number of deaths because there was quite a few, so I'll say maybe 9 or 10, someone can correct me, but there was only 3 births. So even if we continue a combined grade model, and I know populations fluctuate, but if you had 2 years where you only even had 3 or 4 kids born, you're looking at having 5 and 6, maybe 6 to 8 kids in a classroom, and trying to supplement that again with school choice, which has already proved through the cost of an aide for pre-K and K, as well as benefits, that's not a sustainable model and it's not equitable for all of our students in the district. So the population is really what we have to start looking at, and we have to figure out a way to make it work with the kids that are being born, the kids that are coming into our school. And just to really quickly comment, because everyone was asking, well, why does it matter that these kids don't go to Pioneer? It matters because we staff to serve those students because we own them. And when those students don't come, we have small class sizes, but we can't make efficiencies till the next year. So we're having expenditures because we're expecting those students to come, and then we're not receiving the school choice revenue once they get to the high school because they're going back to Marhar. So that's the education and financial side answer to that question that was posed at the last meeting.
New information that I had learned, not necessarily about numbers from Warwick in regards to closing the school, but in regards to the motion that was made earlier for David Young to recuse himself. There was a meeting in Warwick that was being taped, and one of the officials, I believe, said if you close the Warwick school, that's going to devastate the economy in this town, and we will have to dig deep and get rid of some positions in town, and one of those positions may be the town administrator. That is why we, when I heard that, I thought, you know, David Young is the town administrator, and he really shouldn't even be voting on this because it affects his job.
Where did you hear this?
Okay. All right. So, has everyone had the opportunity to ask their questions on behalf of the committee? Jessica?
I'd just like to refer to this sheet that we've been given, that this doesn't actually say anywhere what the class sizes are in Warwick or what they would be. It only refers to the class sizes in Northfield. And there are other options available. You know, that there could be use of Warwick school classrooms for Northfield overflow also. I also have a question about the $202,000 in regards to the $85,000 cut that has already been made and how that impacts the whole look of the budget for the Warwick school share of what's happening. And I don't know where, Mike, that information comes from about it being better for two schools to be together. I'm not against that, but I wonder where you're getting that information.
So I just want to answer real quickly to the savings that's being captured from the pre-KK move. In this reconfiguration or whatever that we've done, we are looking at the staffing and once again providing equitable services district-wide. So at the end of the day, when that all came and was all said and done, that particular the aid is actually needing to be kept to service the students, so we're only probably going to save a teacher, but we have a lot of needs in the district that weren't met even with the money that we gave back to Leyden, special ed services and things like that that we really don't have any contingencies for because we kept this budget so low. So until the class sizes are set and until the staffing is set for next year, the returning of those funds to Warwick or what have you, or all the towns, I don't think is part of the budget discussion, but that will be something that will be discussed with the budget subcommittee next Tuesday.
Okay.
Kristen?
Yes, Jeannie?
Tanya, you just said about special ed services not being provided?
No, not necessarily.
That's what you said, and that's what I'm questioning. Because that's frightening.
So we have, during the year, we have things that come up. We could have a kid any day walk into this district and we're not providing contingency. We don't have contingency money in our budget to provide those. So we then have to freeze the budget, as Elizabeth has said has happened in the past, freeze supply budgets and other items like the substitutes were frozen last year because these things happened during the year and we had to provide them because we're state mandated. So when those things happen, we're having to cut from other places during the year to pay for
My
those.
concern is over a statement you just made.
I said we're
And
not
if this is the
providing
thinking of
contingency.
You said not providing sped services.
Okay, I will
And-
correct that. I was speaking to the contingencies in the budget.
The contingencies I can understand,
Okay.
and that's why I was questioning.
I'd like to bring us all back, to actually, to the motions that were made. The discussion has occurred so that we can take a vote to reconsider a vote not to close Warwick Community School. Okay? Everyone is clear what we're voting on?
Let's make clear what a yes vote means and what a no vote means.
So if we were to vote yes, we would reconsider the vote not to close Warwick, and then we would then talk about and vote to close Warwick. Okay? A no vote would not move anything forward.
Would not change anything.
Okay? Any other questions? No? All right. All in favor of the reconsideration vote not to close Warwick Community School?
Yes.
That's yes.
That's yes. One, two, three, 4, 5. Okay. Everybody? All opposed? 5. Okay. Abstentions? Okay.
Motion loses.
Motion failed. Okay. All right, new business. The Vernon tuition rate for the 2019-2020.
So in front of you, you guys have a Vermont Agency of Education School Finance. This documentation shows the rate that is allowable by the state of Vermont for us to charge for them to come to our institution if they do not have their own high school. That rate for 2019-20 school year is $15,933. For 2018-19 school year, it was $15,813, I believe. Pat had spoke when we voted this in the past that we don't always charge the full amount that's allotted because we want to make it attractive to the Vernon students. So in order to bill for next year, we need to vote on this rate. I would recommend that we at least keep it at the current rate of, I believe it's $15,813 or $31. Looking at past years, it looks like we only decreased it by like $50 when the vote was taken based on prior years. So if that was the case, the amount on the sheet you have in front of you that's from the Vermont Agency of Education in your packet shows $15,933. We did vote for the whole amount for this last year because that's what was budgeted and we thought we had taken a vote. If you're going to go on past practice of decreasing it by $50, it would be $15,800 and was it? I can't do math. It's too late. $83. So the school committee just has to take a vote on what they want that tuition to be. So someone would need to make a motion to recommend a specific tuition rate for next year to charge to the Vernon students. And I do believe, is it 4 additional students that we have coming next year? We have 4 6th graders coming up from Vernon next year at this point in time. Sharon?
Can you just recite those numbers again, please?
So the $15,933 that's on here is what we are allowed to charge by the state of Vermont. In the past, looking back, it looks like past votes and past tuitions have just been $50 less than what was allowed. I'm not sure how much more attractive that makes now that we only have 10 students. In the past, we had a lot more students, so I think that was a mechanism to keep them or attract more.
But I think that's.
What's the
fine.
figure this year?
Tanya?
Yeah.
That could be due to the fact that Vernon had a lot more students.
Right,
there.
and Vernon did have more students. I'm just saying, I don't know why I wasn't here. Like I said, Pat was here and she recommended, you know, and that we do decrease it to some extent to make it more attractive for the town to send their students here. So that's the information I have.
Madam Chair, if there's no recommendation, I'll move that we set the tuition for Vernon students at $15,900.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay.
No, because this is grade 7 through 12.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, sir? Okay, perfect.
Did the Vernon Parent Night happen at PVRS?
Did the Vernon Parent Night happen at PVRS?
That was the summer.
That was the tech night.
That was the
tech night.
Okay. Health insurance benefits memorandum of understanding.
It's not a full house anymore, so I'll make this quick. Under the MGL chapters 21 to 23, I spoke about this in past meetings. There has to be negotiation with our unions as to whether or not to accept a change in plan. That change in plan was such that Hampshire Health Group kept our rates the same while slightly increasing copays to its members, and we met, negotiated, and we are required to return 25% of the savings of what the rates would have been had that change not happened, and they voted how to receive those savings. There's a list of plans in place and how much each of those individuals would get. Those that would qualify for that change in plan are the people that are on the plan this year and still on the plan next year. If you come on July 1st through open enrollment and you're new, it's not considered a change in plan, so there would be no funds to those individuals. It's only for those that are currently on the health plan. So the amounts that go back to them are here at the bottom. The total was roughly $18,000. All the information's not in this packet, but Kim, who is on Russ's staff, was at these meetings with us and guided us, as well as Joe Shea from the Hampshire Trust Group, and the overseer also has taken a look at this memorandum of agreement. It doesn't have to be approved by the commissioner because it's under $25,000, but he did look over it and said it looked good, and the unions have voted to accept this. The school committee has to vote now to accept this so that our public employee committee, which is a member from each of the unions, the support staff, the teacher staff, and the retiree committee, so to speak. There's a public employee committee representative, which was the president of the mass retirees that was appointed because there wasn't anybody that came forward. So the school committee has to vote this. You guys would sign it, and then they could sign it, and it would be effective for next year.
I move the memorandum of agreement.
Any discussion? Okay. Go ahead, Julie.
I'm aware that past union contracts clearly state that the district pays 75% of the HMO Blue cost, and that it was our intent in terms of contribution. And when a subscriber went on the PPO, they should have paid the difference. This is in here now. Has this been cured, or has the new contract perpetuated that error?
And I think Russ's staff has spoken to this before, but unfortunately, because the district has paid for that through past practices, I believe we are kind of stuck with paying that 75%.
But we're at a new contract.
No,
juncture.
we're a year into it.
Yeah. But I know this has come up. I know this has been come up in discussions in the past. And Suzanne was advised that because it was past practice, that it wasn't in the district's best interest to change it.
Yeah, I got the same advice. I just wondered, in a new contract, when health insurance wasn't even part of the contract, right, anymore?
It did
It is.
It is.
It is.
This is a
This
change of
isn't.
plan.
All right.
But
That's all I got.
it was not part of the contract negotiations.
I don't expect to be here in 3 years.
Any other discussion?
It depends on you, day of
All
the
right.
week.
Any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor. All right,
If
all
you
in
s-
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? No. Number 3 is the proposed FY20 school committee schedule.
I hate these summer meetings.
Kristen?
Oh, Kristen.
I just thought that the person that spoke to the question of having a meeting in Leyden made a good point, since it's still one of our community towns. I would love to see us keep doing that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Yes?
Yes.
Seems to be everyone else's thought?
Yeah.
But can I suggest not having it in May? It seems like in May, often we have meetings that are, I can't
Yeah,
think
but
of
I
a
don't want
nice
it in
word, but
March.
that cause a lot of people to come
I don't want it in
out.
March, Pat.
You might get lucky.
And if we could move that
I don't wanna
live
change
meeting
it.
to another date, I think it would be nice.
I got all these good snow tires.
September?
That's kind of a
I think, one of the reasons I can see Leyden not being here is because of the location, and Leyden School is no longer open, so I can see the wisdom in not having the meeting there. But also, if you choose to continue to have a meeting at a town building, that's fine, and we can do it any time other than winter.
And March is too close to winter.
So September or May? maybe?
I like May.
We've always done May, let's continue to do May.
It's good, except that
It's not always gonna be like this. We've only got one.
So, is there any other discussion or questions?
No, but we have to add.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move we accept the schedule.
No.
With Leyden, for the May meeting.
With Leyden for the May 14th meeting.
Second.
Okay? Any other discussion? All in favor of accepting with the change to May 14th?
Well, I think we have to get permission from the town as to what building it's gonna be in, so.
So why don't we say contingent upon
Approval by the.
approval and communication with the town?
She says it's okay. Michelle, she's the
Michelle's,
boss.
she's likened it, she wants us to call her.
All right, all in favor?
And we're not paying for a lot of heat in May either, so that's good.
Is that everybody? Yes. Everybody? Yes, I know, it goes, all right.
You know.
Personnel and staff changes?
Did we get any?
Yeah, the food service manager obviously has left this year, and like I said, we have a resignation from Holly Manson, who has been our cafeteria manager / inter-school administrator with some of the reporting and ordering stuff.
I'm thinking of trying to get to Warwick Saturday for pancakes.
Go ahead, Karen.
I think we, school committee members, received a letter, and there was some reference by a speaker tonight about cuts to the music program at the high school.
Yeah.
Could I ask for clarification on that?
Right now, there's no cuts to the music program. We do have 1 or 2 courses that only have 1 or students enrolled in them for next year. So we're just looking at either not offering them or maybe combining with other, combining those courses in music. So right now, things are still evolving, but there's no
No
set
personnel changes
cuts.
that you know of?
Well, it's still all evolving a little bit, so things are moving around, but it's the best I can give you right now. as things unfold, I can't really get into specifics.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Okay. Any other personnel and staff changes? So the next item on the agenda is going into executive session.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So you have a posted executive session, and you could review the status of negotiations. The issue is to actually vote on a contract. You have to come back in open session. It's not posted that way.
Okay.
So
We don't have a contract.
Executive session, the postings are open.
We don't need,
So a motion to adjourn?
we don't need executive.
We can't do it.
So, all you're gonna do is just say, okay.
We have nothing to
So
discuss about that.
can we move over that then? Yep, okay. Is everyone okay with that?
Make a
Yes.
motion, we move over item 12.
On the,
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving over that one this way, okay.
oh, he had nothing. How's your foundation?
Okay. Any miscellaneous
Yeah, I know.
updates?
How's your
Just to quickly wrap up for this evening, we have several graduations upcoming. Pioneers graduation will be Friday, June 7th at 6:30. Bernardston Elementary and Pro Roads will be Tuesday, June 11th at 5 p.m. Northfield Elementary will be Wednesday, June 12th at 5:30. And Warwick Community School will be Thursday, June 13th at 6 o'clock. This is an exciting time for all of our graduates and the next steps that they're going to be taking in their educational lives. So that's that. Other business? None? Good and welfare. Thank you everyone for coming this evening. We appreciate
Thank you.
everyone's time.
Good
Our
job.
next
You want to see a
meeting
really
is
good
Thursday, June
documentary
13th,
on
7
the
p.m.
explosion
Yeah, but then we
in
have all those
out
others.
of the state?
And do we have
Russell,
a
you
motion
might
to
be
ad-
interested
do we have
in
a motion
hearing.
to adjourn?
So
The school
moved.
that I work at, all those,
And did
aye.
you, were you able to capture
Anyway,
that?
the school that I work at did a documentary on the explosion and gas explosion in the eastern part of the state, all totally done by the seniors.